My boyfriend wants to marry me so that he can get his green card. What should I do? Disclaimer, it's not my story time. It's on Instagram. Okay, this is crazy. My boyfriend and I met 2 weeks ago. We met through Hinge, and after 2 days of talking, he asked me out. I quickly said yes. We were super compatible. He's a model and I'm a model. I'm an actress and he's trying to be an actor. So things just seem perfect. Oh yeah, and he's really, really hot. We went out to lunch and talked for 4 hours. The entire 4 hours, we just laughed and had such a good time. We talked about everything. Our families, our values, our morals. It was honestly the most refreshing conversation I've had on a date ever. Most men just talk about themselves. And he asked me so many questions. After the date, we spent every single day together. We even went to Disney and it was so fun. While we were at Disney, he kissed me for the first time. And he said that he would love to marry me. My boyfriend and his friends trapped me in a house and assaulted me. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. After I heard about the rumors that he had assaulted a girl, I asked for evidence and nobody had any. Nobody even remembered the name of the girl. So I decided to go on the date with him. He took me on a picnic and at first it was really nice. He had asked me what some of my favorite foods were and he brought them all with him. He brought hummus and cherry tomatoes and chips. But 5 minutes into the picnic, he grabs me and kisses me. Now, I'm not saying that I didn't want to be kissed, I just didn't want it to happen so quickly. And he didn't even ask me for permission, which looking back now was the first red flag. After that, he couldn't keep his hands off of me. I never said no, so he just kept going. He kept touching my shoulder and my legs, and he would lean in and kiss me every now and then. By the end of the day, I was into it. The rest of the relationship, he was always a little bit aggressive. He never asked me if I wanted to do anything, he would just do it. A week after we started dating, he introduced me to his friends. One of them jokingly asked my boyfriend when it was his turn to take with me. Part 3 is up. I'm 16 and pregnant and I still haven't told my parents. And I'm also 5 months along. That's when this boy started pressuring me into get a belly button piercing. I started changing the way that I dressed. Then he started pressuring me into doing things like kissing and touching. At this point, I was still sneaking out of the house almost every single night to see him. That's when he started pressuring me into going to his house instead of the park. And I said yes because I didn't want him to break up with me. When I told him I didn't want to go all the way, he told me that there were plenty of girls in school that would happily take my place. So we went all the way. At this point, I was 15 and I had just gotten my period. By the way, I didn't even tell my mom about my period because I thought they would freak. After 2 months passed, I didn't get my period. And I thought that was normal. I had literally no idea about periods. Then another 2 months passed and no period. And that's when I started feeling really sick. And I thought, well, I might as well go get a test. And it was positive. When I told the boy, he broke up with me and told me that I probably did it with somebody else. I feel like I can hide the whole pregnancy because I'm pretty skinny. My mom's asking me why I'm wearing big clothes. My parents will literally kill me. What should I do? I'm 16 years old and pregnant and I haven't told my parents. I'm actually 5 months along. What should I do? My parents are extremely strict. If you think your parents are strict, you haven't met mine. From the time I was a kid, I was never allowed to go to sleepovers or even go to friends' houses. All my friends had to come over to my house. Luckily, my parents are pretty cool and I do have fun with them. But I quickly started resenting them. Here's the reason I think they're super strict. My mom actually ended up getting pregnant from my dad when she was 16. So they were super young. And of course, they didn't want the same thing to happen to me. I guess I kind of understood why they were strict. When I was 13, I decided I would start sneaking out to go to parties. All of my friends had parties and I was the only one that was never allowed to go. So I actually got pretty good at sneaking out. I convinced my parents that I would go to bed early, then I would have a backpack ready and I would just sneak out the window. Luckily, I'm on the first floor. Part 2 is up. My boyfriend wants to marry me so that he can get his green card. What should I do? Disclaimer, is not my story time. It's me on Instagram. He finally kissed me when we were in Disney. And that's when he told me that he would love to marry me. At first, I was very flattered, but then he said, wouldn't you want to marry me? And I said, I mean, I don't really know you. And he said, we'll get to know each other, don't worry. After that, we spent every single day together. At the time, he was living with his roommate and he didn't really like her. So he would come over to my apartment almost every single day and sleep there. He would go to Air One and buy all of my groceries, come over and cook for me. Every single day, he made us amazing food. We'd watch movies together and we'd help each other with all our work stuff. I felt like I was falling in love with him and I'd only known him for a week at that point. That's around the time that he told me he couldn't stand his roommate anymore. And he asked me if he could just stay with me for a few weeks. I told him yes, but that he had to help me with the rent. And of course he said yes. So this man moved into my apartment after 1 week of knowing each other. I mean, am I going crazy? Part 3 is up. My boyfriend wants to get married to me so that he can get his green card. What should I do? Disclaimer, is not my story time. It's on Instagram. He moved in a week after we met. Everything was going great. He helps out with the bills, does all the cooking. He buys all the groceries and basically does everything for me. Even takes care of my dog, does my laundry. I mean, he's everything I've ever asked for. And we have such a good time together. We watch movies every single night. We go out to dinner and hang out with friends. And he's so funny and makes me laugh so much. Fast forward another week. This is when he says that he really does want to marry me. I told him that I would love to marry him too, but that we don't know each other yet. And he said the L word. And I said it back. That's when he said that the only way he could stay in the country with me was if we got married. And that he had already looked into other possibilities, but that was the only one. I told my parents, but they freaked out and told me I shouldn't marry him. All my friends think that he's just trying to use me, but I don't think so. I really do believe this man loves me. I mean, he does so much for me and really cares for me. So I need you guys to help me think of ways to put him to the test. How can I know that he's faithful and that he really loves me and isn't using me? What should I do?
I just matched with my dead wife on Tinder. I heard the front door of my house close and I tightened up in my bed. I started to write back. Why? I'm a dumbass. I don't know. Another message rang in before I could shoot mine off. You're on Tinder too soon, Derry. The pet name only the two of us used between each other. The logistics of who knew that name flashed through my head as I heard footsteps approach my unlocked bedroom door. Then the footsteps stopped right outside. They were accompanied by a fresh message in my inbox. You were supposed to warn me, not try to fuck 23-year-olds on Tinder. Oh my god. I realized right there that it was even following Allison's quirk to impeccably punctuate any kind of message even if it didn't matter, putting the dashes into 23-year-old. I spoke, finally. Allison, I'm sorry. I love you. I miss you. I've been sick to my stomach for 2 years, but I had to move on. I threw up most mornings for almost a year. I walked out to the front door and looked outside. There were no signs of life. I went back to my phone in the bedroom. Allison's profile had been deleted. I felt okay. Until a couple of nights ago after I came back from a date with a 26-year-old I met off of Tinder. I came home tipsy after a few drinks and a makeout session in my car. On a high, I checked the app to see photos of the girl whose tongue had just been in my mouth and noticed that I had a new like. I had my account on premium so I could see who it was. It was Allison again, but with the same profile. She was only 1 mile away. I swiped right. Let's see where it goes. Are you home? What? What the fuck? I got another answer before I could form my own. I'm outside. My blood ran cold. Something rattled in the darkness of my kitchen and I jumped up and readied myself in bed, then realized it was just ice dropping in the ice maker in the freezer. Another message. Holy shit. Let me in, please. Fuck. 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 What? Someone had to be fucking with me, but who would be this impossibly cruel and diabolical? There may have been a couple of people who didn't like me at work, but no one who would go anywhere near this far. Another message. Never mind. No more time for thought. Just reading. Never mind.
I cheated on my husband 14 times with his best friend and other guys, and now I don't know what to do about it. This story is wild, so hold on. My husband and I have been married for 2 years. We're best friends, so we've had a really good relationship. We got married after 6 months of meeting each other. During that whole time, I met a lot of his friends, including his best friend. But he told me he had another best friend who was going to be traveling for a full year. One day, my husband tells me that all his friends are getting together to greet their best friend, the one who had been traveling for a full year. We show up to the party, and it turns out that this best friend is a woman. Not just any woman, but one that looks like she could model for Vogue. This woman was so good looking, I instantly got insecure. When her and my husband saw each other, they ran to each other's arms. Then I spent the entire night trying to be included in the conversation. Every time I would ask a question, she would answer it to my husband. She would never even look me in the face. Finally, I asked her if she had a problem and she said, "No, I'm sorry. I'm just really excited to see my best friend." When we got in the car, I told my husband I didn't like her. Then he said that he knew exactly what I was going to say. And he also said not to worry because I would never have to hang out with her. And that he would hang out with her without me, just to save me the trouble. Part 2 is up. I cheated on my husband 14 times with his best friend and other guys, and now I don't know what to do. After finding out that my husband had hooked up with his girl best friend who was really attractive, I vomited. Even though this was before I had met him, something told me that she was probably still in love with him. That's when my husband's guy best friend, who had just told me everything, invited me over to his house. And then the idea just came to me. I'm gonna start hooking up with whoever I want if my husband's gonna be doing it with his best friend. So I went over to this guy's house, we had a few drinks, and I hooked up with him. Did I regret it? Absolutely not. I felt liberated. It's like I had gotten revenge on my husband. So after that, I went on a rampage. I tried to hook up with as many of his friends as possible. Exactly 6 guys. Then I looked for the guys that I liked in college, and I hooked up with a bunch of them too. In total, 14. This all happened in a month. But now my husband told me that his best friend, the girl that I thought he was hooking up with, is pregnant from another guy and that they're getting married. And that the whole time she was away traveling for a year, she was with this man. Now I feel like a total asshole. What should I do? My boyfriend and his friends trapped me in a house and assaulted me. Disclaimer, this is not my Storytime, it's that I mean Instagram. I met my boyfriend in college last year. We had the same class, and during class I would always catch him staring at me. At first it was a little creepy, but once we started talking I realized how charming he was. One day he came up to me and just started asking me about where I was from, and right away I got these butterflies in my stomach. He was really attractive, and I could tell that the girls in our class all looked at him a certain way too. He asked me out on a date and I said yes. But when some of my friends found out that I was going on a date with him, they started telling me things. One of my friends told me that there was a rumor going around that he had assaulted another girl. I just couldn't picture him being that way. He didn't seem capable of anything like that. Later on that day, I got a message from another girl telling me the same thing. And when I asked for information about the girl he supposedly assaulted, they told me that they didn't remember her name. That apparently she just left school after it happened. Part 2 is up. I cheated on my husband 14 times with his best friend and other guys, and now I don't know what to do. After finding out that my husband had hooked up with his girl best friend who was really attractive, I vomited. Even though this was before I had met him, something told me that she was probably still in love with him. That's when my husband's guy best friend who had just told me everything invited me over to his house. And then the idea just came to me. I'm gonna start hooking up with whoever I want if my husband's gonna be doing it with his best friend. So I went over to this guy's house, we had a few drinks, and I hooked up with him. Did I regret it? Absolutely not. I felt liberated. It's like I had gotten revenge on my husband. So after that, I went on a rampage. I tried to hook up with as many of his friends as possible. Exactly 6 guys. Then I looked for the guys that I liked in college, and I hooked up with a bunch of them too. In total, 14. This all happened in a month. But now my husband told me that his best friend, the girl that I thought he was hooking up with, is pregnant from another guy and that they're getting married. And that the whole time she was away traveling for a year, she was with this man. Now I feel like a total asshole. What should I do?